Why don't you move to a different country? Why are you staying here? Young 10-year-old, very intelligent-looking young lady, a black young lady, who will not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in her classroom. She doesn't want to stand up because apparently she believes that black Americans need a lot more to be done in this country. You know what I believe, Cornell? And I know you supported her publicly. I think at 10 years old, she has no real understanding of what America is. So I wonder if her parents have sat her down and explained what Americans have given their lives, white, black, red. It doesn't make any difference. They stood and they fought and they died for this country, and she doesn't want to do anything to honor them?
Matt, she comes from a family of military service members. Her father's is a retired military service member also, who served this nation well with great dignity.
Good.
Her mother's a very intelligent woman. What white people need to understand
Just white people?
Yes, please, let me explain. That national anthem was written by Francis Scott Key, a slave owner.
Oh, here we go.
Who demonized and hated black slaves and black people. Go research the third verse where he says, "There's no refuge in this country for the hireling or the slave. Both should be turmoil to the grave."
How's her parents do it?
This is a man
Are they successful?
that promised turmoil for black people to the grave. Would you ask Jewish children to say a pledge to a German anthem that disrespects Jewish people?
If they're
No, you
living
would
in
not.
Germany,
No,
sure.
you would not.
Well, sure.
That disrespects Jewish people?
Then
No,
why?
you would not.
You certainly can kneel down. In America, you have the right to do that.
America looked at the same way at Rosa Parks when she refused to get up and give up her seat to a white man on the bus. But history vindicated her. History vindicated her. America demonized Harriet Tubman for freeing slaves from slavery, but history vindicated her. So I say to that young girl, you stand strong, stand up, and stand for what you believe in. And to all of those who are too coward to do it, don't get in that young girl's way. Others like her, support that young girl.
What would you like her to say to the men and women who have fought for this country like I ran into over the weekend? The black men and women who fought for this country, and some who gave their lives.
And ask the black men and women who served America in its military, like in the Independence War. We helped America get it, and we were still slaves afterwards. Ask those in Vietnam who gave their war on Vietnam battlefields, but then came back and was called niggers in their own country. We have fought in America's war, and we've never been given the justice and the due process of everybody else in this nation.
So why don't you move to a different country? Why are you staying here if you don't like it?
Let me tell you why. Because the country belongs to Indians. You white folks stole it from them, raped and robbed their people. This not your country. You all came over here and stole it and beat the hell out of them. So this not your country.
It was my country.
You all need to go home.
If you're
you all need to go back where you came from.
If you don't like it, why don't you pack up and go?
Let the Indians decide who should pack up and go. And I guarantee you black folks will stay, and you all will be on the first damn boat leaving here. So don't try that, brother. You all didn't make America. This is not your country.
What you should do is sit down with someone who has fought for this country, Cornell. Get their opinion too.
Tons of black people have, and what have we gotten from it?
So such kind of conversations are the ones that push people to open up to, the most uncomfortable debates. And you take notice that every time black Americans quietly refuse to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, because it's not a one-time scenario, the reaction is always explosive. They are called ungrateful people, unpatriotic, or they're even labeled as traitors. And, some are even told, if you don't like America, then you can leave America, ironically. But here's the real question nobody wants to answer. Why is loyalty demanded from black people while justice is optional? And there are some people that might argue that failing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance is disrespect to the country, to the troops, to the flag. But have you ever tried to examine the other side of the story, to why those people that choose to, sit down or silently protest, why they are doing so? Before you really try to question that other side of the story, then you cannot be in a full conclusion and think that you're right by dismissing these people, whether you're black, you're white, or, whatever your complexion is. So let's watch, and I'll be back with a good analysis into this.
That Fox 26 interview with Cornell was not about the little black girl who did not want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. That debate was about who gets to belong and who doesn't. Because Cornell explained calmly and historically why a little black child may not want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. or the national anthem for that matter. He explained how the man who wrote that anthem was a slave owner who despised black people. He explained how black soldiers fought, bled, and then came home to a country that still called them slurs, still denied them the same freedoms they went and fought for those white people to have. He explained that freedom in America has always come with an asterisk for us. And so what did that white man do? He interrupted, he overtalked, he continued to dodge accountability, and then he pulled the oldest card in the book. Well, if you don't like it, why don't you just leave? And that question right there is the tell. Because white Americans cannot fathom why black and brown people will criticize a country that we still stay in. And that is because white Americans' nationalism is their identity, not principles. See, black, brown, and indigenous people have peoplehood. We have lineage, we have memory, we have culture that's older than the American flag. Our identity exists with or without America. And white Americans don't have that. Because remember, most of them were not nobles. They were not royalty. They were Europe's cast-offs, criminals, rapists, debtors, and the violently poor that were exported to stolen land. The society that put them on the bottom of the hierarchy rid themselves of them and then shipped them here where they built up a hierarchy that put them at the top. They invented whiteness to cling to. They invented something that gave them a sense of identity, something they could invent that made them think they were superior, and indoctrinated everyone else by threat of violence and force and death to believe that what they were inventing was true. They wrapped their entire self-worth in a nation that they felt that they could finally dominate. And that is why they cling to that flag, to the anthems, to the pledge, because that's all they have. So when we say, hey, this country harms us, they don't hear a call to repair. They instead hear a threat to their identity. When Quanell told him all the reasons why black people believe that we should not have to stand up for an anthem or pledge our allegiance to a country that's never put us anywhere but at the bottom, that white man said, well, then why don't you leave? Because they hear a threat to their identity, that's why the solution is always for us to leave. But here's the part they choke on, just like Quanell said. This country ain't theirs. This country was stolen from indigenous people, built by enslaved Africans, and maintained by exploited labor. We didn't come here chasing some dream. Our ancestors were brought here in chains. So don't ask us why we stay. Ask yourselves why you won't leave. I believe they will not leave because deep down they know that this nation, this country, this America is the only thing standing between them and finding out who they really are, the type of people they really come from. And that's why a black child choosing to sit down for the Pledge of Allegiance threatens you, terrifies you, because it's not disrespectful, it's honest. Black people's relationship with white people in America has been one of narcissistic abuse, and it's just like a narcissist to say, don't talk about all the ways in which I hurt you. Congratulate me for giving you the smallest bit. Tell me how great I am. Don't look too closely about the wrongs I've done because that didn't happen. Just like a narcissist.
Why don't you move to a different country? Why are you staying here?
Tell me why they ask us, why don't we leave when they brought us here? Right? I didn't ride over here on a boat because we wanted to. Our family was brought here out of no goodwill and used as slaves. And on top of that, to this day, people still fight like this white man on the screen talking about how, well, why don't you leave? Well, why don't we all stop the hate? Because that's all this is. To have any kind of disregard for a different race, you purely and basically are saying, I'm dumb. Because what do you mean? Different cultures are beautiful. Different ethnicities are beautiful. Even the white people.
Everybody, that I'm in remission. I am cancer free. And I want to thank everybody that has prayed for me, that has come up to me and been so kind to me. And you know what? The immigrant-free day. I think about these individuals. You know something? When you do what I did, when you work hard, when you do what you're told, when you go where you're supposed to go, and you pray to God, then good things happen. If one day you decide you're going to do none of those things, then what may happen is exactly what happened to these so-called immigrants, many of them illegal, who decided not to go to work a particular day just to somehow get across some kind of message. They get fired the next day. Welcome to America.
Matt, you know, I am happy that you're in remission. To God be the glory. But it is amazing how you could beat cancer and be in remission and your heart still be so cold and hard. It is amazing how you would speak that way about immigrants when you call them so-called immigrants. You're right, they're so-called immigrants.
Some are illegal.
Because they're only coming back home. Texas, Arizona, and California were stole from the Mexicans. So they're so-called immigrants because they're coming back home. And when you speak about if you work hard and do the right thing and be good to people, well, guess what? That's not the history or the legacy of your ancestors.
You got to come through the front door.
White folk didn't come through the front door. White folk kicked open the back door and killed everything else in between to conquer America.
Well, why do you,
they were not good to people that they met. They didn't show hospitality to the Indians.
You're trying to avoid what we're talking about.
They didn't do that.
Here.
They weren't hospitable.
You're trying to avoid what we're talking about here, and you're going to go back 200-300 years.
What I'm trying to do.
Why don't we talk about what's taking place over the weekend?
What I'm trying to do is try to tell white people like you, stop throwing rocks at the immigrants when you all live in a glass house. You all didn't come to America the right way or the godly way.
Yes, you do. You do the things the correct way. And in 2017, the correct thing to do is come through the front door. And these are people that snuck into this country. And so we're all supposed to allow that to happen? That's not how it works. You're not going to get what you're looking for. And you got to work. You got to come through the front door. I understand that.
I'm saying they should not have to sneak back into a territory that the legacy of that territory belonged to their own people. But let's just say for the sake of the law, they broke the law. Okay, I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, brother, where is the human compassion that the ancestors of Indians showed your community? You all won't show that to nobody else. But you want it all showed to you.
Let's stay in America. There was no America back, what you're talking about. You're taking something and trying to turn it into something that it's not. Let's talk about the rules and the laws that exist in the United States of America.
This is America, but America the beautiful has been America the ugly toward too many people of color. And all we want is the same thing you all enjoy, the complexion for the protection.
Well, I tell you what,
all got in America. We don't have that.
Do that when somebody crosses your property line and wants to come into your home and sit down in your living room and eat out of your refrigerator without ever asking you or without being a member of your family.
All the immigrants are not doing that. So stop that, brother. That's a hype. That's a lie, and it's racist, man.
It's not a hype. It's exactly what they want.
They're not all doing that.
He was talking bad about Mexicans, and he got put in his place.
Governor Greg Abbott wants to make sure that Houston, the city of Houston, is put under the same microscope as any city that isn't allowed legally to be the quote-unquote sanctuary city. And this is what we do here in the city of Houston. People come into the city of Houston illegally. They're allowed to stay. There is only so much that our law enforcement officers are willing to do, that the DEA is willing to do, that the border agents are willing to do. Why in the world don't we go after those that are here? Well, that's what Abbott wants to change, and I agree. And as soon as we make sure that in the state of Texas, if Houston keeps conducting itself the same way that San Antonio and other cities conduct themselves, then no money is coming to Houston from the state. We need to do that on a state level. We also need to do it on a federal level.
But, Matt, my problem with this is, why are we so worried about getting rid of all of the Mexicans or Hispanics that are, quote-unquote, here, if they're illegal or not? At the end of the day, many of them are paying taxes. Many of them have been here for generations and decades. And, Matt, trying to get rid of 4 or 5 or 3 million people all at once is not going to work. We don't have the resources.
We don't have to do it all.
And secondly, Matt, listen, there is no such thing as an illegal Mexican immigrant coming into Texas because they're only coming home. Texas, Arizona, and California were stole from the Mexicans.
Don't start
this
that
all belongs to them. So they're only coming home, and then here it is, you white folks stole the land from the Indians, but yet you're the natural, real illegal immigrant.
So let's start with the things you said that are already wrong. First of all, they're coming here, they're not paying any taxes. You're telling me they're paying taxes? They're not paying taxes.
Matt,
nobody knows who the heck they are. No, they're not paying any taxes.
Matt, when they buy a product, they paying a tax on it.
Let's continue.
When they buy a car, they paying a tax on it.
You come into this country illegally. That is a law that you're breaking. And that's why they have to be sent back to wherever they came from. They want to come through the front door. that is the correct way to come in. And the city of Houston has to stop allowing this, or we're never going to get them to stop coming in here. Look, Matt, that's what we got to do. Follow the law.
But Matt, where is the compassion that the indigenous Indians had for white people in this country?
Why do you keep going backwards?
They let you all come in.
What are you going
and
backwards?
you came in and raised a whole lot of hell.
Don't start.
Trump,
don't
Trump
start
called
bringing up
Mexicans
history and try and
rapists. He
explain
called
what's
them
going on
criminals.
today.
Trump called the Mexicans illegal criminals coming into America. Well, the biggest illegal criminal ever come into America was white people.
So you don't give a damn
So,
if people break
no.
into this country.
I don't give a damn.
I wonder what's going to happen when they come and rob your house.
I don't give a damn about hypocrites who came here illegally and stole all of this and now want to blame them for only coming back home. To all of the Mexicans, don't worry about this. Just keep having babies, and in 30 years, all these white folks will be under your control.
To Americans, let's stand up and do what the hell we're supposed to do and stop letting the city of Houston be an open door. This ain't no sanctuary city.
Don't listen to
that.
that.
This is a real city.
Just keep having.
I think this is a fantastic law. It is time to start enforcing the laws that are on the books instead of the state and local officials legislating from their own little tiny offices.
It's an awful law because it's nothing more than a legal way for law enforcement to racially profile Mexicans and Hispanics. I would say to the Hispanic and Mexican community, what you got to do now, hook up with the black community and unite in political power, because if Mexicans and black people unite in Texas, we can control the governor, we can control the lieutenant governor, and we can control politics in Texas, period. I'm saying to Latino brothers and sisters, don't fight them by yourself. If you hook up with black people and we unite, I'm telling you, we can run Texas and then pass laws to deal with those who hate us.
You're advocating for criminal activity, Cornell. These people are not here lawfully. They need to do what our ancestors did, what many Mexicans have done.
Well, no, wait a minute.
Many, don't interrupt me.
Your ancestors came here illegally. Wasn't nothing legal about your ancestors.
Listen.
They came illegally and they murdered, they raped, they pillaged a whole race of people. This country, Texas, Arizona, and California, belonged to the Mexicans.
Cornell, get back
it was
to the
stole from them.
You
so
tell
you
me to get back
your
to the point.
ancestors, they came here illegally.
You're not being fair to me here. You say stay on topic. I say, okay, we'll stay on topic. And then as soon as we start talking about illegal immigration, you go back to the black issue. Let's stay on topic.
Your ancestors are the master illegal immigrants.
Give me the opportunity to respond in that, you know what, we're all Americans here. And if you are here legally, absolutely, then we need to come together and we need to pass good laws for enforcing the laws.
Well, perhaps the Native Americans should have passed laws against your ancestors.
What if I told you that the history of the Pledge of Allegiance is racist, xenophobic, and steeped in white nationalism? The Pledge of Allegiance started as a project headed by Francis Bellamy, a Boston minister, in 1891. A magazine had asked him to write something for the school system that would commemorate the 400-year anniversary of Christopher Columbus landing in America. They wanted to do so by raising the U.S. flag over every public school from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This was the original rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. Under God wasn't added until 1954. Now, at first glance, the language used in the Pledge of Allegiance isn't racist or xenophobic, but if you dig deeper into who Bellamy was and what he thought of immigrants and non-white Protestant people, then you know that this language is racist and xenophobic. He went on record to say that he wanted to define true Americanism. You need to know that in the early 20th century and the late 19th century, there were millions of immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe coming over to the United States. A lot of these immigrants didn't speak English, were either Catholic or Jewish, thus not considered to be real white people. And Bellamy was on board with the very racist and xenophobic laws that the United States were passing at the time, like the Chinese Exclusion Act, the Immigration Act of 1891, etc. And his goal was to mobilize the masses to support American doctrines by warding off internal enemies hostile to true Americanism. So now that you know the history of it, why would you want to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Now, when black people choose to sit out the Pledge of Allegiance, it's almost never violent. In the many cases that we have experienced, we have seen, it's usually silent, it's personal, and yet the response is usually loud, emotional, and let's just say hostile. Yeah, the accusation is always the same. You're disrespecting the country. You're disrespecting the flag of America. You're disrespecting, the troops and those that, fought for this country. But notice what is happening here. Patriotism is being weaponized. And that's that's the painful silent truth. The conversation isn't about why someone feels alienated. It's about forcing compliance. Instead of why is someone choosing to sit out? Then they just jump into a conclusion, stand, recite, smile, be grateful, don't question. And, when Black people, explain that their protest comes from maybe centuries of unequal treatment, suddenly the empathy disappears. Instead, the conversation definitely usually shifts to threats like, if you're not satisfied with America, then you can leave America. They're told so. Now, I think this is where sober voices like Cornell step in and flip the entire narrative on its head. His response in this particular video, the one we just watched, is not emotional. It's rather historical. He reminds people of something very simple but very uncomfortable, that Black people did not invade America, and Black people did not colonize America, and Black people did not steal the land or write the laws in America that exclude others or excluded others for the longest time. So when someone says, for example, the man says, if you don't like it, leave, then the question becomes, first of all, leave to where? And most importantly, who actually has the historical audacity to ask others to leave America? White people, a white person, a white man? Does America historically belong to white people? See, that's a big question, and there's a big point of ignorance, So Cornell also exposes the contradiction that America celebrates protest when it fits a certain narrative, But when Black people protest, even quietly, like choosing to sit during the Pledge of Allegiance, it's framed as, treason. Now, this brings me to the point where now we ask the question of patriotism versus forced loyalty. And this is the heart of the issue now. Patriotism is supposed to be love for one's country, not blind obedience to it. But in America, especially for Black people, patriotism often means, silence and compliance and obedience blindly and not questioning. You can fight the wars, you can build the economy, you can pay the taxes religiously, but the moment you criticize injustice, your loyalty then, to being an American begins to get questioned. Yeah, and that's not patriotism. That is forced loyalty. And forced loyalty is a hallmark of authoritarianism and authoritarian thinking. That's not democracy, because democracy is all about, accommodating everyone's perspective and trying to handle everyone's, dissatisfaction, rather. So true patriotism will always allow dissent. You don't all have to agree. You can disagree to agree, and you agree to disagree. It allows discomfort. It allows people to say, this country hasn't lived up to its promises, and so we want better of it. These are not people that hate America. Black people don't hate America. In fact, Black people love America way more than, it's even portrayed. And they want, the best of their country. And they should be given a chance to say, this is not the best for America. We can make it better, to demand better from it. So this matters. This conversation, this kind of, topic really matters, because this debate really matters because it reveals a dangerous double standard. I often say in America, it looks like there are two groups of people. One that is protected by the law, but they're not subject to the law, and another that is subject to the law, but looks like they're not protected by the law, And Black people are expected to constantly prove loyalty to a system that has, historically denied them basic dignity, safety, and equality, and not question that system. You cannot demand allegiance while you are ignoring inequality, and you cannot demand respect while you dismiss the lived experiences of some certain people in the system, in the country. You can't preach freedom while policing peaceful expression. That's not democracy. That is authoritarianism. If standing for the pledge is truly like voluntary, then sitting must also be respected. Otherwise, it's not a pledge. It's a test of submission. If you have to, unquestionably, stand for it, even when you feel like you're not comfortable. So America loves to say it stands for freedom of speech, but freedom only matters when it protects that speech that you don't like as well. It's not always about agreement. It's about taking consent and dissent and trying to find a balance for it all. So quiet protest is not disrespect. It's not hatred. It's not treason. No. If America wants like genuine unity, it has to stop demanding loyalty and start earning it, I think. Yeah. That's the right way. You don't demand, you don't force it. You just earn it automatically. And people will love that country. Because a country that fears peaceful protest is not really a strong country, by the way. It is an insecure one. Yeah. So yeah, that is as usual my take on it. Do share with me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed, then please kindly hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video.